Good morning, everybody. We are Lusaka Avocado Multipurpose Cooperative. Today, we have Mr. Daka talking to Mrs. Grace Karanja, and we are going to have a presentation and an interview. We would appreciate it if at the end of or during the presentation, if you are able to kindly put your questions at the bottom or in the chat. If you're in the chat, either a member of the committee will answer your questions or they'll be read towards the end. So without further ado, we are very excited to present the Green Gold, Mrs. Karanja and Mr. Daka. Over to you, Mr. Daka.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mrs. Kalinda. And I'm super excited here. We have a very special guest, Madam Grace Karanja. How are you today?
Good morning, all of you. Good evening, sorry. It's evening today here in Kenya. I am very well, thank you. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to my fellow farmers.
Awesome. So we're big fans of you here in Zambia. We ran into the Green Gold series. That's how we ran into you. And we're just simply excited. You are doing amazing things. It's nice to watch you in that series and just to see the passion. We see somebody doing something they really love to do. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the avocado industry.
All right, my story is very interesting. Although I've been very passionate about farming from when I was a child, because I grew up in a family where I saw the changes that happened when my parents stopped farming coffee in the 80s and transitioned to avocados mainly, and the mangoes that were called apple mangoes. That was early 80s after my father traveled to Israel. And when he came back, he had all these new ideas. You can imagine when he comes and tells you that he's got to cut coffee. So that background inspired me a lot. At the stage when I wanted to leave employment, at that time I was working for the USAID for an agriculture program with the youth. Obviously, the only thing I would have thought of was something that I have passion for, and that's how I ended up in the avocado business. So a little bit about myself. I am a master's degree holder. I have done a lot of work with the USAID and AU's, European Union, that is ILO. For example, I've worked with AGRA, but mainly in the agriculture sector. And I've been in the formal employment for a long time until 2018, when I really felt that I needed to do something that was my own. And there's a time when I was actually thinking very hard that I need to make a plan and leave employment and start something that is going to be having an impact to the community. And so I made what you call the step of faith, and I stepped out in 2018. That's a brief background.
That's really awesome. And a lot of people relate to that. A lot of us are still working those 9 to 5s. And to make that leap of faith, it's to be admired. So in general, how has it been since 2018? Have you had any scary moments where you've been like, hey, I wish I didn't do this?
I can tell you for sure it's been a nightmare, but a sweet nightmare. And like any other business, perhaps one of the things that I have done or did when I was getting into this that will shock you is that I took every penny that I had saved for my later age. And you know, I'm not very young. I took every penny and I put it in the avocado business. And everybody told me you're completely nuts. In that, I knew that there is no fallback position. So it had to work. And I used to come to the farm every day. Put in. I went to markets, I understood markets, I worked backwards and put infrastructure to be able to grow a crop that will fit into the market. So I did not even start climb. You know, I tell farmers, most of the times farmers climb trees from the top, because you plant and then you go and look for markets. So who are you going to sell to if you don't even meet the standards? So for me, I wanted to know exactly what are these Europeans talking about. The market I want to fit into the market of the Europeans. I don't care the size, but what quality, what standards are they looking for? So when I came back, I can tell you, 2018 is the only time I went out, and then I came back, and for 3 years and to date, I am just working progressively to make sure that I fit into those standards of European market. The scary moments I've had, obviously, is that, oh my God, I started off with the wrong seedlings. And guess what? You only find out after 3 years. Because this tree, you can only know that it is the wrong fruit after you've seen the fruit. Then you wait for another 3 years. If you plant another wrong one, then you'll wait another 3 years. So a total of 6 years of ignorance. That was the worst and the most scary moment of my life. So my first block, I say it's a learning block. I love it very much. We call it Block A, but it's got such a history of very unfragmented orchard. Some trees are 3 years, others were cut down. Last year, but one, I cut 236 trees, because after flowering, we realized they were wrong. So we had everything, you know, in Kiswahili, we say muchanganyiko marum. Yani it was mixed up. I had fuete, we took it to have fuete, but I had Pinkerton, I had giant hass, I had all sorts of things in that farm. And because of the uniformity, I had to cut them after 3 years. So when do I wait? I have to wait for another 3 years. So the biggest mistake any farmer who wants to get into avocado production will make is to get the long seedlings. You have to start it right.
Right. That's really good. So in that case, a quick follow-up, because I think I picked up in one of your videos, you go to Isinya Gardens for your seedlings now. And I was thinking, you know, with a lot of experience you have now, is that still the position? Are you going to get seedlings from people who are specialized in making seedlings, or are you starting to make your own as well?
That's a good question, because every farmer will ask you, why wouldn't I make my own seedlings? But I can tell you for a fact is that we lost time making our own seedlings, because it's not a business we understand. And the mortality rate, therefore, of the plants that we used in our Block A was very high. So because they got fungal diseases, they were grafted wrong, we did a nursery of about 20,000 seedlings, because we thought then that we are going to be saving money. But let me show you the maths of why that was not practical for me. So I have a nursery, that's a whole business on its own. I had to employ people. And because your fear is that you're going to lose, because already in the nursery, because you don't know, you're not a professional in that area. Already in the nursery, you're losing a lot of seedlings. So you take the seedlings before they are mature enough and you plant. And most of them obviously did not survive. Yeah. So in the other side of the coin is that you go to a nursery and you pick up a seedling that is 1 year old, you know? So the time that I had spent and the money that I had spent putting up the nursery and then taking a 6-month seedling into the orchard and then nursing it, because that's a premature baby. You have to nurse it until you get it on the move. And you're not sure whether it will survive or not. So survival rate was about, say, 20%. So look, how much money have you lost? As opposed to going and buying one that is already a mature baby. And therefore, when you put it on the ground, it peaks immediately. And it saves you the time that you'd have spent the 1 year of nursing it and employing people and watering it and putting it foliars and fertilizers to make sure. You see, all that time is also money and the inputs that you're putting. So I went that way. Yes, that's why I will still go the way that of buying seedlings from professionals whose business is seedling production.
I see. Very good. That's a very good insight, Madam Grace. So switching topics a little bit to something you said there, you had to employ people in your nursery, and I'm sure you've employed a lot of people in your farming operations. Here in Lusaka, Zambia, we're like the little brother saying, we've seen what you've done as Kenya, we've seen what you've done as Mrs. Karanja, and we have a mission we want to follow. So we want Zambia to be on the avocado map of the world as well, to be where Kenya is. That's our simple mission. And we know we have lots to learn from, people like yourselves who've gone ahead and kind of ahead in this journey. So just to bring it home, could you tell me more about like how many jobs have you created as part of your farming business, specifically to do with avocados?
Okay. At the moment, we are having about 38 personnel on the ground. 38, and say during the high season when it's harvest time, then we have another, say, 15, 20 people because of the harvesting. But on the ground, permanently, we have 38 people that we have employed.
That's very, very good. And that I like that. That's 38 actual families that you're impacting. And if you get the ripple effect of that, that's
Yes.
a real impact you're having in your communities. And you mentioned like your parents, I guess, were doing coffee farming in the past. How do you compare the avocado value in terms of business compared to other crops?
Okay. The avocado business is much valuable, although it is an interesting space to be in right now, because it's contributing 15% of our income from the horticulture sector. Now, remember that most of the production that is done in Kenya currently is done by smallholder farmers. So the dynamics are changing, because we see that the large farms that used to do coffee and tea and flowers are now diversifying and putting in a lot of avocados. So it's not just Kakuzi now that is doing large-scale commercial farming of avocado. There's a lot of Sassinis coming up, and Simbi Roses and all those people. In fact, you can say 99% of the flower farms have actually diversified to avocado. Now, what does that tell you? That in the future, the income for coffee, for coffee is going down, because avocado grows in the coffee regions, and those companies that I'm telling you about are diversifying. So that means they are reducing either the flowers or the coffee on the same land and introducing avocados. So the dynamics are going to change, and that's why we've been saying that it's been tripling every year, and especially the commercial side of it is growing very, very, very fast. Yeah. So I may not be able to give you the exact figures in terms of value, but I know that in terms of metric tons, we are doing about 250 metric tons, which is very little as compared to what the global market needs. And out of that, it's 70% is being done by the smallholder farmers. But now the ones I'm telling you, the commercial farmers who are coming up, and when I mean commercial, I don't mean very, very big. Anybody with say 100 trees and above is what I am calling medium and to large. Anybody with 100 and above is doing sizable work, so the future of those undocumented farms that have come up, who will be producing in the next 3 years, will be very interesting dynamics to look at for Kenya.
That's pretty impressive. So speaking of those numbers, we know because we're tracking them, and you need to be very proud, because Kenya is #1 in Africa now. If we can say in the Africa Cup of avocado, Kenya is a champion, and that's impressive. But even more impressive is at the world stage, Kenya is in the top 10. And it's
Yes.
quite amazing to say, to hear you say the majority of the farmers producing actually the small players. So
Yes.
it's quite amazing to see all that come together and be number 6, number 7 in the world, depending on which list you're tracking. So to us, that's a success story. And it's nice. We're looking to Kenya to say, look, Kenya's done it. It's impressive. From your opinion, for a young industry like in Zambia, where we're starting out, what are the key factors you'd advise us to look at to start with, so that we could have similar success in the next 5-10 years?
You're in the right path, because when you look at smallholder farmers and you're looking at cooperatives, then you have a uniform production system, and therefore you can be able to sit with buyers and bargain on quality based on your production system of the members that you're working with. So the cooperative style of production is very good, because then you're almost positioning yourself as big as Kakuzi, but where you have more members, more numbers. But it is possible to get certification, that, for the Global Gap certificate for many farmers, yeah? So then you can be able to be positioned in the world map. The second thing, therefore, is now the training and the awareness that you're creating to the farmers, so that they know what the market needs, what does the market need? And then you work backwards by supporting the farmers to make sure that they're all having uniform production. What do I mean by uniform production? For example, there are harmful pests that are not allowed. So you need to know how to handle those pests without really using harmful chemicals, because then they measure the chemicals. Number 2, where is the money? The money is not just in production. The money is in the quality. How do you build quality? And that comes in now. What are the practices, agronomic practices? What do you feed the products on, so that then you're having the sizes that give you good money? Remember, avocado is not avocado. In Kenya, a lot of people are doing avocados, but some people are not making money from avocado, because you make money in avocado when you have the big sizes, But farmers are usually in a hurry, and sell the small sizes. Yeah. Yes. So there's some dynamics. So that unity you're having is very important. In a nutshell, the unity is very important, because it will help you now produce markets uniformly.
Right. So that's good. So speaking of like farmers selling premature avocados or small ones, we've heard in the news, the government for you guys had to step in to ban those exports. For, again, up and coming producer like ourselves, what's your general thought on that, on how you keep everybody going towards the same quality, make sure out there it's Kenyan avocado? How do you bring that down to the individual farmers to come along and hold off from that temptation to sell premature fruits?
I'll give you an example of a cooperative I know, or they call themselves a self-help, more in Nyeri, of very informed, I call them informed farmers, because what they do is that they work together, and because they are together in a group, and they've signed contracts in a group, they've signed that they're not going to sell to anybody. They call buyers and tell the buyers, we have X amount from our 20 farmers, and we want you to bid for this season. And the biggest bidder is the one who buys from them. Now, what does that do? It motivates the farmers, because the farmers know we want to sell, because in the agreements, they say we want to focus on selling from size 24 upwards, not downwards. So anybody who has a smaller than that, then you're not making money. What made me very impressed when I visited that group is that their average size is 20. They wait until their produce is ready, and they sell the produce when it is size 20. And every buyer in Kenya is trying to woo them, because they have volumes and they have quality in terms of size, and they don't bulge. They will just tell you bid and will give you an average of 20. Which buyer wouldn't want to work with somebody like that? So it's very motivating for the farmers. Yeah. So it's a model that you introduce to them so that the farmer sees the sense of staying put.
Very, very good. I like that. I like that. So speaking of that as well, so you said in your one of your videos, and even in the introduction here, you went to Europe by yourself to go and check that market, see what the buyers are looking for. Again, as that young brother coming along, trying to follow you, what advice would you give us in terms of how to break into that export market as a young industry in Zambia?
Okay. Yes, that was the best thing I ever did, to go to Berlin. And luckily, I'm a very confident girl. So I went and sold a vision, because I didn't even have a seedling on the ground, but I knew what I wanted to do. And of course, I had narrowed down. I got some information, I did my background, and I knew the key buyers of avocados. So I went and met them. They're usually there. You meet them and you tell them, excuse me, I would like to talk to you. And they'll talk to you. You know, if you look like you can say something, they will listen. And there's something very interesting they told me that I took home. They told me there's Kenya avocado and there's Kakuzi avocado. So unless you can promise us Kakuzi kind of avocado. Now, what they meant is that you have to deliver quality and consistency. You see, Kakuzi is able to do quality and consistency because they are largely producing 70% of what they export comes from their farm.
Amazing. Consistency and quality. That's
secondly,
a huge
the farmers. Yes,
okay.
Quality
Go
and
ahead.
consistency. That's the main thing. Yeah. Then secondly, the farmers that Kakuzi works with, because they work without growers, they train them the way you're training your people now. So they also are producing almost the same as Kakuzi. They mirror production to Kakuzi. And when I came back home and I said, I will work and towards that, because I told them, look, I am in the same zone with Kakuzi. If Kakuzi can do it, why can't I do it? Right? But the farmers that I will work with, because I support my communities, I work a lot. And that's the reason I did my videos. I did my videos because I said, for the mistakes I made, I didn't want anybody to repeat the same mistakes unless they want to, because there's nowhere else to learn. So I said, I have learned, I'm going to tell people what I have learned. Nobody else can tell you what I did. But quality and consistency is very, very important when you're entering this market. And that you can only achieve when you're working together like you're doing with the farmers.
Absolutely. Powerful, powerful, Madam Grace. So speaking of your videos, when are we getting the next episode? Because we're big fans now.
Okay, we should be finalizing one, say in the next 3 weeks. 3 weeks we should be finalizing. It's been a busy time for us because we are in the stage where the avocados are really taken care of. So we are very, very busy, but we'll be giving you one soon.
Excellent. So good busy. That's really inspiring. Again, you know, we can't say that enough. It's amazing to hear your story and the success you've had. So before we kind of get into the main thing where we want to hear from you, give us some guidance on land preparation. You have 20,000 trees now.
Yes, they are about 20,000 trees, minus the 236 that I cut down.
Right. I like that. And I think a lot of us starting out here have that plot A, you called it?
Yes, plot A, the school of learning.
Yes, the school of learning where you make all your mistakes. I think a lot of us are doing that. So it's nice to know that, you know, even people who've gone ahead went through some of that. So 20,000, that's a lot of trees. And you have all that under irrigation, or are there some that are just using the natural rain?
I'm very lucky. I have a very large dam, so everything is under irrigation.
That's awesome. Awesome, awesome. Well, very inspirational. So switching to the main part of why we're here, of course, we're here for more. We got so much to learn from you. But I'll take just the next 20 or so minutes for you to tell us a little bit more about, land preparation and how we go about it, the lessons you've learned, and we'd like to hear from your wisdom on that. So over to you.
Okay. All right. So the starting point, of course, you've identified, you've decided you want to get into avocado production. There is an attitude that you have to be working with. So it's you're working with this over 7,500 is it meters above sea level and above? So they say from 12, actually from 12, but I'm seeing the dynamics changing. Some are doing up to 7,500, but I'm sure your agriculture officers will be able to guide you on that. So secondly, the pH for the avocado obviously will be between 5.6. It doesn't like very acidic soils. So you'll need to also check that. You do your soil tests. Very, very important. You do your soil test early and get to know whether it's an area that can support avocado production or not. There is the issues of water. Obviously, I think that's the reason they say high altitude, is that sometimes you need, especially when it is now fruiting, you need a lot of water at that point in time. Of course, when you plant, you need water. You need to look at those dynamics. Where do I get my water and all that? So assuming that everything now is okay in terms of the geographical, the climate and everything, the soils are fine, then the next thing you must watch out for, I'm sure, is also in your country, is the small things called swaras. That is antelopes. You know those small antelopes that are like small goats that are in places. Now they love the avocado tree. And just like the goat, when they bite it, when it is young, it does not recover. Apparently the roots, so am I back? Yes.
Yeah, you're back.
Yes.
You're back.
Yeah, so we made a mistake. We planted when we found out that we are okay. We went ahead and planted, and we had not fenced the place. So one day we woke up and found that almost 800 trees in the night are gone. I mean, the antelope came and was biting. I mean, they had a field day, and we stopped and went back to square one, because then we had to uproot all those and look for more seedlings to plant again. So we fenced the place, and then we replanted. So that's very important. Okay. Now, the other thing we discovered about our land is that our land, because it is coffee growing area, is very acidic. Our soil is very acidic. So that means when we're doing land preparation, we had to consider ways that we can mitigate, we can reduce acidity, and therefore we knew that we had to introduce a cassia, agricultural lime when we are planting. Then we went in now to obviously you have to know where is your source of water. You don't have to irrigate. Not if you can't irrigate, it's okay. You don't have to. You can do manual watering, because avocado luckily is not a very high consumer of water. So we laid out our infrastructure, the water infrastructure. For me, that was very, very important, because my water source is a bit far, very, very far. The dam is far, not very far, but it's far. So if I had not done that and the rains failed, that means my trees would have suffered. So the first thing I do before even I get the trees is that I laid out the drip system, and I dug my holes. Now you will notice that in this slide that we only dug around. We did not actually. When we started off in the beginning in our block A, our landing place, we used to dig the banana hole. You know the way we dig the banana, the big deep hole, and you dip the the avocado seedling there, and we had a very high failure rate. Why? The avocado tree has a shallow root system. And when you put it under there, it doesn't like a deep water. It doesn't like water logging. It doesn't like a cold environment. But when you put it on a raised ground, then it's very vibrant. It will grow very fast. And in fact, when I was told that in one of the lessons, when I went out of the country and I came back, I actually put one down the way I had put, and next to it, I put one on a raised ground. And I saw the difference. The other one grew up very fast. And they say that once the root systems are exposed to that warmth, then they grow even faster than the one that is beneath there. They say it's like a grave. In Spain, they were telling me when you put avocado like the banana, you've given it a grave. It will definitely die. Yeah. So there's a way you can raise the soil, and you can heap it, or you can do the big trenches. If you are financially capable, you can do the trenches, the big ones, the big beds. Yeah. In Europe, they do the big beds. Yeah. But here, because I was a bit limited in resources, I raised where I was planting. So you did the 2x2. So you remove the topsoil, and the first half of the topsoil, I put it aside. And then the other half, I put it away. I don't use it. The topsoil is the one that I use because it's got the microorganisms, yeah? And then that I mix it with manure. Manure is old manure that is treated manure, because if you use manure that is not treated, goat manure or cow manure that is raw, then that means the nutritional benefit of that manure is not going to be available because it has not broken down yet. So you're just wasting time. But I mean, for now you are wasting time. It may break down in another year, but what it needs to consume is not available right now. Yeah. So we mix it with manure. How do we treat our manure to make sure it has broken down? We mix our manure with molasses and a product from the pharmacy called EM, essential microorganisms, which is a catalyst for breaking down the bacteria in the manure. Then you mix that in water. I have a video already in AgriRush, you can check it out. And you cover that manure in a heap. In about 14 days, you'll just remove it after 14 days. But within that period, it becomes very hot, because it's breaking down. After 14 to 20 days, that manure is the best. When you put it on the tree, it is direct consumption. So we mix that manure with the top soil that I told you we put aside, in the same soil. And then we wait. Now we've heaped it up. That mixture, we put it back in the hole and we heap it up. And we wait for our seedlings. So when do we plant our seedlings? We plant our seedlings, even though we have water, we plant our seedlings during the rainy season. Why? Sorry, I forgot to say, we plant our seedlings and we only buy seedlings that are mature, 1-year-old seedlings. So it is 1 year old from date of grafting. So by the time it comes, it is on the ground, it is 1 year old. Why do we do that? Because that tree, if you look at the root system is developed. If you look at the trunk is developed. So the stomach is developed and the feeding system is developed. So when you put it on the ground, in 2 weeks, it picks. So it will not go through the kind of stress a premature one would go through. You're not chancing. For here, it is a sure rate that is going to survive. It will just be watered once, twice, and then you see it survives. And then because you plant during the rainy season, it is cooler. So again, you're managing the stress, any exposure that you have. We also make sure when we bring it in, the day of planting, we drench it in a product that is called AgriRoot. AgriRoot protects, it waxes the roots of the seedling so that the seedling is not exposed to any pathogens that are in the soil. So if there's any bacteria in the soil or fungus in the soil, this plant cannot get, because the roots are already coated. Secondly, it has got agarroot has got seaweed extract, and therefore it stimulates root growth and also supports the tree from shock because it has amino acids. So any stress the tree could experience, quickly it is supported by the amino acids in that seaweed extract. So we drench that and you plant your tree. From there, you just manage the watering. Yeah. There's a debate. Do you use fertilizer when planting? Shouldn't you use fertilizer when planting? All that will be dependent on a lot of things. The size of the tree, or most people want to plant fast, and then when it picks, because you say you don't want to plant, and then there's no system of feeding, it is still too young, so you can put the root system later. Yeah, so there's the issue of so if you're putting fertilizers, remember phosphates are the ones that actually help the development of the roots. So if your school of thought is that you should plant with fertilizer, some people will say I'll use DAP. In my case, I cannot use DAP because DAP is an acidic fertilizer. So we use triple superphosphates when we are planting. Just a little triple superphosphates with the agarroot. And from there, you don't talk to that seedling until it starts flashing. Flashing means it starts removing the green leaves. Then when it removes the green leaves, don't ask me when, because it depends on your farm and how you're taking care of it. You know, some kids will walk faster than others, yeah, depending on a lot of things. But I always tell them, plants talk to you. When you look at it, it is talking to you. When it is yellow, it is talking to you. It is telling you, I need more nutrition and I'm lacking some nitrogen. When it is not flashing and it is dormant, it will tell you, I can't remove leaves because really I am struggling down here. And so I'm protecting my energy. So I need to be supported. So maybe you need to give it more support to develop root system, because the moment the root system is very well established, the next thing you start seeing is the flashes. It is telling you now I'm eating very well, and my root system, my stomach is very good. It is eating very well. It's picking food from the soil, and it's eating and see I'm growing. So I need more support. Give me CAN. You know, CAN. What does calcium do to the plant? The calcium helps in the cell multiplication. So the leaves are growing just like you and your calcium in your body. So the calcium is helping you get a stronger plant because the cell multiplication. So the moment you start seeing new flashes, it's time to add calcium, CAN, that is calcium and nitrogen, you see? And you continue working on that. And as it grows, it will continue talking to you. When it gets to the flowering point, it will tell you something else. I need something different, you know? Yeah, but we're talking about land preparation. So generally, those are the main things. How do you dig your hole? How do you select your plant? Make sure you are protecting it even from hazards. Hazards like swaras, we call them swaras here, antelopes. Yeah, make sure your source of water is very well identified. At that point, it is a tender baby. It needs water at the right time. So your source of water should be identified. If you're doing telephone farming, like most of us do, please remember, make it easy for the people on the ground. Because if you don't, they'll cheat you. Did you put water? Yes, I did. How many liters? All of it. But you put half a cup, because it's lazy to go far. But if you make it easy for them, that you make sure that your all watering points are very nearby, then that becomes very, very important. My advice is to the farmers also is that you have to decide whether you're doing this as a business or as a hobby. If it is a business, you have to be there, you have to be hands-on. You have to know these things. I didn't study agronomy, but I had to know the key elements that will drive the business. So production is very easy to understand, and you must make sure you're following up. Don't leave it yet to your farm workers. So I think I've covered everything about land preparation. You do your soil test also. Remember, you must do your soil test to know your soil type.
Very, very good. So actually, that's a good point. In the previous session we had last week was actually about soil testing. So it's nice to hear it even from another expert, the importance of that. So lots of good information there. A few follow-ups for you, Madam Grace. On the seedlings, so you advise 1 year from the date of grafting. And I know, some of us are doing 6 months, some 3, some 4, 5. Is that a hard rule for you to say 1 year, or you could do 6 months if it looks mature enough?
You could ask, maybe the question we'll be looking at is, why do I say the 1 year? I have seen the 6 months things. And unless I see a different type of a 6 month seedling, 6 months is still a premature baby. From 9 months, I see is okay. 9 months is okay, but for me, ideally, 1 year I see, then it makes a difference. But between 5, 4, those are very young seedlings. Because even, I don't know, you've looked at my seedlings, you can see the trunk system. The judgment, actually, let me tell you, the judgment first is the trunk and the root system. And there's something else I need to mention about the seedlings, is that you see the ones we buy from the roadside, they use the small paper bags, very small paper bags, and they use soil. So that when you go to plant the seedling from a small paper bag, the roots are exactly the size of that paper bag, But when you go to senior roses, the paper bag is a big, massive one. And when you look at the roots, they're this size. Number 2, they don't use soil. They use pumice, rice husks, and that is very permeable. That means the roots are very vibrant, they grow. But the ones who are putting soil, the soil hardens, and then therefore it makes the roots not grow. So when you put it on the ground, you get a hard, they are, what word do I use? How do you say the English one? Kushikana. Anyway, they are crammed up. The roots are not crammed, they're crammed up. Yeah.
Right.
So a good nursery will know, for example, that a seedling is not really grown in the soil. The best seedlings would be something that is grown more. I think Kakuzi, they mix sand with soil, because then you make it also permeable, So
making it for the roots to grow. Yeah.
Making it for the roots to grow and to be vibrant. So your measure, therefore, over what is a mature seedling would be, how does the root system look? What color are the roots? If a root is black, it means it is already infected. Are they white roots? Number 3, the trunk. Is the trunk thick enough? Because if it is thick, that means it is mature. It's not still tender, and therefore it will be able to resist. So my advice to farmers is look out for those things. It doesn't have to be senior, it doesn't have to be Kakuzi seedlings, but whichever nursery is doing it, work with the nurseries that are really understanding. You have to be selfish, The person in the nursery is selling seedlings. So if he sells to you, he's done his business. You have to be selfish also, buy the right thing. It doesn't matter whether it is a little more expensive, but let me tell you, the cost of managing that thing that you bought at, say, 80 shillings will be higher than the one I bought at 350, because you have to take care of it for 1 year. For me, I take care for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it has peaked.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So then the other question I had, you kind of answered, but I'll just ask just for clarity. We've heard, I'm showing a slide here where we have the raised beds, the big heaps, and then some are just flat and just raise it where you're planting. From your comment, sounds like it came down to cost, to say if you can afford to make the big heaps, that's what you should do. But if it's too expensive, you could do kind of flat, but raise the part where you're planting. Could you comment on that?
Yes, that's correct. The raised beds are the best, because then, remember I said that avocado, it does not like waterlogging. And so therefore, when you have raised the bed and you put your water, then the water runs very easily. And also the roots are exposed to warmth, and therefore the tree is very vibrant when it's growing. It is a very good way. It's what you call international standards of planting orchards. But if you cannot be able to go that way, then you go the other way. You see, when you raise, you protect even that tree from any floods, you know. In case of flooding, there will be no issue.
Right.
There'll be no leaching of fertilizers, for example. When you apply your fertilizer there, you're sure during the rainy season it stays there. But once you're on the flat ground, then the risk is still higher, you know. But again, you just raise your mountain like I've done with my farm, a small part of where I'm planting. Yeah. And then yes, you just avoid the banana type of planting, you know, the deep hole.
Right.
That's the thing you'll avoid by all costs.
Yeah. So in terms of the hole size as well, we've heard 60 centimeters, 70 centimeters, 1 meter. What do you recommend? And what factors should one consider?
That's for the spacing, right?
No, for the hole size, when you're digging the hole.
Okay. In Kenya, the standard size that we do is 2 by 2. 2 by 2.
Okay. Is that the distance between a plant, or when you're digging the hole, how deep and how wide are those holes?
2 deep and 2 wide.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for you, 2 means is that 2 feet? Is that inches? What's the measurement? 2 meters?
2 feet.
2 meters?
2 feet.
2 feet. 2 feet.
2
yes.
feet. Yeah. 2 feet by 2 feet. Yeah.
Excellent. So, because I know in Zambia we talk centimeters.
Okay.
Excellent. So maybe one final one before we also hear from the audience here. Spacing of the trees. I think this must be the most debated topic in our membership so far.
Yeah.
What spacing should you use? What planting pattern should you use? So we'd like to hear your take on that.
It's also the most debated point in avocado farming in Kenya today, and in my farm as well. In our learning farm, Block A, we did a 6 by 7 because we had been advised by our agriculture officers to do 6 by 7. Now, remember, this is a very new industry, first of all. And it's been very unfortunate because when you look for advice from the Ministry of Agriculture, you may not find a lot, because the curriculums that my dad did when he was in agriculture school is the same one that they're using now. And then they were being taught about coffee and tea and bananas. Avocado was never ever in their curriculum. So they are using the same practices to tell farmers, do this one. Some are wrong. Now, so when I came into from my block A, you know, that's when I also started going aggressively into Kakuzis and trying to get information from the large farmers. The large farmers know because they've been around and about. They told me that they're doing even a 3 by 3. You know, I mean, they're doing 3, the spacing of 3. 3 by 6. In between 3 to 3, you know. And I was like, isn't that a hedge? Are you doing a hedge or what? And I was explained to that in commercial farming, you need to maximize your land. So in most cases, they do intensity. And then when the spacing becomes a bother, in between 3 to 3, then they do what they call horizontal, or they do what you call pruning. They manage it through pruning. Yeah. So if you go to Kakuzi, you'll see even the 4 by 3 to 3 is 4. In some places they do 3. When you go to the new farms like Shalima, I was in Shalima the other day, they are doing 3. When you go to people like Kate, they are doing 3. The trend is intensity, because they're saying you want to maximize your income in the first years so that you earn from many in the first years and get your return on investment in the first year. Remember the tree, as the tree grows, the more, so in your, but the more the days, the more the years, the more the tree increases its production. So the tree grows production as it increases number of years. At 10 years, it will be now giving you a lot of fruits, up to even 2,000. Yeah. So if you remove one, so for example, you've done a spacing of 4 by 4. There's one block I've done, I was very adventurous. I did a spacing of 4 by 4. And I told myself, if I do vertical pruning in another 6 years or 7 years, when they become a bother, I'll have earned from this tree, but I'll be able to leave now the 8 by 8 space.
Right. So you have a fallback to, it becomes 8 by 8 when you remove some lines.
Correct. And that would be in another, say, 7 years. So that means the tree that I will remove, it will give me, I've already used the money. I've already got, it has been part of the helping me get my return on investments. And I'm not losing much, because the ones that is being left, the production level has gone high to take care of the one that has gone away. I don't know whether I'm making sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just as an example, when we are 4 by 4, say I'm going to lose, we are doing, say, 500. That by the time we are 8 years, I remove this one. These others that have been left to be 8 by 8, they've increased production to be able to take care of the guy that is going to go away. So the numbers will never really be affected. When you're projecting numbers, you're not affected, but the issue is to go intensity. Second is, what are you doing with your land? Is it an orchard purely, or are you going to be planting your banana, your beans and your potatoes in the same land? You see? If you're using it for other things, then you need to space out. If it's purely an orchard, then you need to go intensity. So I have gone the risky way, 4 by 4. I've gone the big way in Block A, where I know it's the same, but I know in the next few years in Block C, where I've done 4 by 4, I'll be earning more than Block A, which is about 2-3 years older than Block C.
Right.
Will be almost like triple their volumes, because in 1 acre alone, we are doing so much more than we did in Block A.
Right.
So it's a young block. It's a young block, but it will overtake the production of Block A, which is the first block that we started, in the next 2 years.
Excellent, excellent. So that's a very good insights there. So in terms of, so in your Block A, you mixed them up. You had fuete, you had other things. What are you doing now in your Block B and C in terms of, we've learned about type A, type B, trying to mix house with fuete to increase the yield. What have you learned on that, and how are you doing? What's your approach in Plot C?
Okay, in Block A, we didn't have fuete. We didn't even know that we are supposed to mix. So luckily, the ones that we are removing in between, because they were the wrong types, that's where we are putting fuete. So you can imagine how disorganized it is. We'll only know, we are marking, because you could have a fuete here, another one the next side or not. So it was not very well planned. In fact, the other joke about Block A is that we didn't even plan the parts for harvesting. And so we are recreating that now. Because, you need to be careful about where will especially when you're doing larger scale like us, where will the tractors pass through? Where will the parking points be? All those things, because of quality, you don't want to keep moving you don't want the harvester to pick from one side and come carrying all the way. So you have to have points of collections in different corners. So those are things we didn't think about. So our fuete in A, I I can tell you, we are just mapping them out now. We don't know. In block B and C, what we've done is that after every 5 rows, we have a row of Fuete. So they recommend that you must have 10% because of the cross-pollination of Fuete. I decided to increase mine to 30. And I'll tell you why. From a business perspective, Fuete comes early in Kenya. So in December, say January, February, March, April, actually up to March, you have Fuete on the ground. It fetches less, yes, a little less. It goes to Dubai mostly. But my point is that I'm in production from January up to April, when now Fuete, where now the husk comes in. So April, May, June, July, August, I'm still in production for husk. And then I stop to start preparing now the crops for the next season. So that gives my farm at least half of the year I'm busy selling.
Very
as
good.
Opposed to just having Fuete. Yeah.
Excellent. Very good businesswoman right there. So you're not just doing it to increase the house yield, but you're also making some income from Fuete itself. That's really good. Very, very good. So as we switch to the next phase, wanted to, before we open it up to, get the questions from the audience, we went to your Facebook page and found you've been working with some charities. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because we believe in, supporting charities, paying it forward, and helping our communities.
Thank you very much. When I look at them, I smile. Now, this is it's very near my farm, and there's a pastor who just takes in children who are orphaned. Can you imagine? And supports them through the church. He has a small church, not very big, so I know it's a struggle because everything comes from his pockets. So I have given them some land where they grow their staples, the maize and the beans. And also, I make sure that I try as much as possible to organize friends to support them with school fees for the girls, with the sanitary pads, and also a bit of food here and there. So these kids, also we work with some sisters who have a technical college. So some of them transition to those sisters' colleges, and then they are taught some skills like carpentry. Then we are able to they're able then to look for jobs. Yeah, it's called the Amicable Children's Home.
Excellent, excellent. So that's really powerful and close to my heart. It's very important for us to, even as we go about doing business, to help our communities and people who have a tougher time, so having a challenge compared to us. So we want to pass it to our membership to say, Madam Grace has been gracious to give us her time. She's a very busy woman. So let's do some type of a donation. So we'll share through our finance team. When we share these slides with our membership, we shall have a number there for our finance committee, so that our members, if you're able to make any donation to support this charity that Madam Grace is supporting, we could do that as our token of appreciation to her. Thank you for that. So how are we doing for time, Madam Linda? We would like to take some questions from the audience.
I've been engrossed in Madam Grace's conversation, making notes, so I apologize. I've not been taking time. So we do have quite a few questions, and it's up to you whether you want me to go through them and then give short answers, because we've got, let me see, 8, 9, about 15 questions. So if it's okay with you, I'll do like a quick fire, if that's okay, Madam Grace.
That's okay.
Thank you so much. Okay, one of the first questions that was asked was, what is the optimal distribution of clay, sand, silt, and organic matter of the soil that is suitable for avocado cultivation?
Wow.
Sorry, that was from our chairman, so sorry.
All right. That's a very technical question, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Engineer Chiwala, you are there?
It's a very difficult question.
Thank you.
So I can find out and get back to you on that.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then, how do you determine if the avocados are ready for harvesting?
Okay. There are two things in the season. We know once it starts around the time that it should take to be mature. So there is a size you're looking at. For example, you want it to be big enough to be size 22. Second, there's a color that it attains, a deeper olive green. And third, then you take it and do the dry matter content, which is you peel it out, you cut it in the middle, and then you peel the center out. You put it in the there's a machine that you use to, you dry it, and then you measure the fat content of the avocado. So I can share with you a short video on that, of how it is done. Then maybe you can distribute it with to the members.
Thank you so much. And then a question from someone called Namundi. What is the recommended maturity for a seedling from the grafting to planting? I think you've answered this when you mentioned that it has to be a year after grafting.
Yeah, basically it is a guideline. The year for me is a guideline, but there are other physical features that you will look at. Okay. That's the root system that is remember the stomach of that seedling is the roots. So if the roots are not vibrant and they are not big and they are not white, that means then you're having a very bad stomach. When it goes to the ground, it will not be able to feed.
Thank you so much.
You use that as a guideline.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. And then Matthew Nyarenda wants to know, you've got your labor of 38. For how many hectares or plants is this?
Well, we have 170 acres. That works out to how many hectares? Divide that by 2.5. At the moment, that's what we have on the ground. So, and many other things. It's not labor intensive. Don't get scared. Avocado is not labor intensive, especially because we have the irrigation in place, which is what takes a lot of time. But there's a time of weeding. If it rains, the weeding is a nightmare. I think it's the biggest challenge I've had, because you have to weed around the tree. Otherwise, the weeds will be competing with the avocado for the fertilizers that you put. So yes, we work with about 38 for the 170 acres that we have currently.
Okay, thank you so much. You mentioned the weeding.
And they're not, just to mention, they're not entirely doing the avocados. They're doing many other things. They're doing many other things. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You mentioned the weeding. Is that manual weeding through all that, or since you said the roots are very much at the top of the soil?
Yes, it is manual. We don't use pangas, fork jembes because then you damage the root system. So you use pangas. You know what a panga is? What is the panga called?
Yeah, machete.
Yes, the one you use, the pangas. You know, the ones the women use to weed for beans. You know.
Yes.
Yes, that's what you use to cultivate around the tree, especially when it is young. In between the rows of my farm, I normally use a mower, but you see, the mower cannot get under the tree.
Thank you.
The young ones. Now in block A, the only challenge you have is between the rows, because under the trees, because the trees are big, it really doesn't get a lot of weeds because there's a shade.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. And then you mentioned your dam. What size is your dam? And was it a type of construction? Was it just a duct construction or was it a concrete construction?
It is actually a river that comes from Abadeas, and it feeds in, so it's a river that passes through the farm. And what they did, what my father did is that he widened it, my father-in-law, he widened the dam, and therefore we have a huge, and then it is pours out to another river, you see.
Thank you.
So it was just deepened and widened.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
so much. You mentioned purchasing your plants from Acinia Roses. Could you tell us what your checklist was for selecting your nursery supplier?
Okay. How I got introduced into the Acinia Roses, first of all, is that I went to another farm. I was visiting some people, and I went to the farm that is done by our president, current president. And I saw the trees and I was like, wow, interesting. Even the president is getting into the business. So that's good. He's going to protect the industry. So I went away. After about a month, I came back and I was like, wow, what steroids are these plants on? Because they were just smiling. And I walked in the farm. I told the manager who I know. I told him, you must tell me what steroids you're giving these things, because I have to give my plants the same thing. Then he told me the secret is just one. Our seedlings are 1 year old from nursery. So when we plant, they just pick. I went straight into Acinia Roses. Now, there are 3 people who do commercial farming, or commercial production of seedlings, certified professionally. That is the Acinia Roses. There's one called Solar Plant, and there's Kakuzi. Now, for Kakuzi, they don't do it commercially per se. They'll only sell to farmers once they've had enough. They do it for their plantation. And then when they have a bit of extra, maybe 10,000, 20,000, they'll give out. So if you're going for commercial seedlings, they don't sell to you. They'll tell you, no, maybe every farmer can only take 2, 3, or 500 or 200. So I got bored of that story. But I went straight to Acinia Roses, and I told them I wanted, say, 3,000 seedlings in May, another 3,000 in June. And they're so professionals. Their nurseries are perfect. I looked at everything and I was very, very amazed. So that is the reason why I chose them. They are very dependable. When they tell me in March you will have your seedlings, for sure in March you'll have your seedlings. So even for you as a farmer, you can project, because everything will be depends. If I miss the rainy season of March, that means I'll sit back for another so many months waiting for the rainy season for November. But look at the time lost.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you
Exactly.
so much.
Yeah.
The other question from our member is, what other crop has been planted alongside the avocado trees?
Oh, yeah, good question. When we started, because we were learning in that block A, our school of learning, is that I did herbs. Someone advised me, or I came to realize that I had put in all my money in the avocado seedlings, and they were going to take me 3 or 4 years before they start earning me an income. And so someone asked me, okay, so what will you be feeding these people on? I mean, do you have another source of income? And I was like, oops. So what do we do, So then I didn't want to do tomatoes. I didn't want to do onions. I didn't want to do things that will make my head go berserk, because your tomatoes will be stolen, your whatever, those things I don't want. So a good friend of mine came and told me, why don't you try herbs? It's a new sector. It is growing. And the world has started looking into Kenya for herbs. And I did my homework again. And so I planted herbs, fresh herbs. That is rosemary, thyme, basil. Basil in the greenhouses, of course, but outside we were doing rosemary, thyme, mint. Why those ones and why not tomatoes? Tomatoes are heavy users of pesticides. We didn't want to do that. Yeah. Okay. So the other thing would, other than of course the market prices and the fluctuations and those kind of stealing and all that, but they're heavy. So you don't put anything that will compete with your produce or jeopardize your produce. You don't want to put tomatoes there and then you're having those insects that tomatoes or melons, and then you're having the mosquito bug coming to bite your all those things. So, but you can put things that will complement, like the beans. Beans are super fantastic. Right now, I only do beans because they add nitrogen, the nitrogen fixers. So all the farm in most of the places, unless where I have just left it as green, the other places people do. I say people because my workers, I give them to my workers, they plant beans.
Oh, wow. Thank you. What type of beans are these? Is it just any type of beans or?
Depending on what they want to plant.
Okay.
Some would, they want to plant for consumption. They plant the yellow beans, rose cocoa. What is the other? Dried beans, the cereals.
Yes, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. We've got here another question. What are the key steps one must take in order to get Global GAP certification? And what is the cost of obtaining this?
Yes, it is interestingly a nightmare because you have to have your records sorted. Yeah, but key steps is once you identify a consultant, they're able to guide you and tell you the things you must have in place, such as records for the farm, spray records, feeding records, what else? All the technical data sheets that you need, the history of the farm must be visible. So you get a consultant, then they'll guide you, then you choose, there are many awarding bodies, you choose which one that you're going with, then they will come in and do the audit. And either you pass or you're given areas to fix. Once you fix them, then you go in. So things like where do you put your fertilizers, where are the safe areas, where do people clean their hands? They'll give you a checklist. They even have a checklist. In fact, it's available online.
Thank you. You mentioned you had a visit in Spain where you had advice. What town was that? And do you know what company was it you went to in Spain?
Yes, we visited several farms. We went to this Valencia. We were taken to some farms that do these beautiful oranges they called mandarins. Then we were also taken to some avocado farms. I don't remember the name of the farm.
It's okay.
But basically, if you go to the Fruit Logistica, that is the major conference that is done in Berlin. And there's another one that happens in Feb, but it is now moved to April. There's one that is happening very soon, in April 3rd, I think. Those are the two main ones. The Berlin one, Berlin Messi happens is coming in April. The Spain one comes in November, around November, October there. So when you go there, you'll meet everybody. All those guys will be there.
Thank you.
Producers, packers, buyers, they are all there. And so you can pick one and they can invite you to their farms.
Oh, I see. Thank you very much.
Because it's an exhibition. It's an exhibition where everybody meets. It's a very good networking exhibition.
Oh, thank you.
Even just for your own curiosity, it is very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's good to have the intensive production at the beginning to help with costs, but then you also mentioned that you decided not to go into nurseries because it was too technical. Did you figure out how much the cost of management and the cost of actually producing a seedling was when you were first planning your production?
The cost of managing the nursery and the cost of
so if you had, say, you decided to do, I don't know whether you did 5,000 seedlings at the beginning, and then you said you planted them yourself. So that cost of actually bringing them up to the year's worth compared to when you bought your plants from a senior because you thought they were a lot better. Would you say that doing them yourself for a year is not advisable?
Okay, let me give you an example. I may not have done that in detail in terms of giving you the rule, but let me tell you first. First of all, I was very frustrated because in Kenya, grafters are like mechanics, you know.
Mm.
It's very hard to get a good grafter.
Okay.
So they graft, they're there. I'm not saying they're not there. They're there, but they're all over and they're not committed, you know.
Okay.
And then I asked myself, so do I employ a permanent grafter just to have him on the ground? And I'm not doing it commercially, it's just for my farm. And then the 1 week he's with me, the next week he lies to you that he's not there and well, he's grafting for somebody else, you know?
Yes.
So that frustration alone was enough for me to say, no, this is not the idea. But logically, I told you I went to the president's farm.
Yes.
And I saw, and that experience now I have experienced it. So when I set up my farm, imagine you get seedlings, you get the seed. First of all, to select the seed is very important. I did not even know that. But my grafter used to go to the market and collect for me and collect seeds with them for rootstock and grow them. How many months does it take to grow before you graft it? He's still there managing, watering. And then, I mean, you're talking about a period of 3-4 months, then you graft. Then after you graft, then there's that management part. Then you're waiting for another year. Then it grows, then you plant. Now you need somebody to be watering. You have all that. Then when you plant, you have 6 months or so seedling. Then there it is. It needs tender loving care. That tender loving care is being done by his senior roses, you know. His senior roses doing the tender loving care because that's their work. So for me, I'll buy 350. You'll buy yours at 60 shillings, yeah, or 80 shillings. You think you're saving money. Then when you come here, because of the TLC, here it is. Mine is still at his senior. Somebody's taking care of it. You have put yours on the ground. You don't even know whether it will survive or not. So what are you doing? Oh, NPK. Oh, there's electricity. Then you have employed an employee to put water every day to do what. Mine is still being taken care of there. By the time yours is the age of where mine comes in, it is strong. And then it picks immediately.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much. I'll ask you one more question and then I'll hand you over to our chairman who's got a couple of questions he might want to ask himself. The one question I was going to ask was, you mentioned something about treating the soil, or was it treating the manure? Is that something you do on your farm? And is there a particular process that you use?
Okay, there's first of all, we protect the seedling by using a product called AgraRoots, which we drench just before you plant. You drench the solution into the packet. You know the packet of this. So when you're putting it on the ground, it is already protected and it's got all the nutrients. It's got the seaweed extract, amino acids to take care of the stress, and it is covered, so it will not get any exposure to any pathogens that could be in the soil. So that is important. The second one I talked about is the manure. Yes, we treat our manure to make sure that the manure we are giving is broken down in a way that the nutrients are readily available to the plant. And how do we do that? Traditionally, you're told make sure the manure has stayed long enough, you know?
Yes.
That it has been out long enough, you know, it has been exposed.
Yes.
But there's a way, even when you do that, you're not very sure that the manures are already available. So we use essential microorganisms, EM. I don't know whether you know EM. We mix it with molasses. And EM is like a catalyst, it's bacteria. When you mix it with molasses, it's like the way alcohol is brewed.
Yes.
Then when you pour that solution, just a bit, you're not pouring it to wet it completely. It's in the video. There's a video on AgriRush about how to prepare your manure. The manure, when you bake it like that, because it's like you bake it, then it is the nutrients are immediately available to the plant. It is ready made.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I will now hand you over to Engineer Chiwala to ask his questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Grace, for what you've done thus far. We really appreciate you taking time to talk to our members here in Zambia. The question I would like to ask you is, are you able to share with us companies in your country that specialize in setting up avocado pack houses? because this is an area we want to go into as we mobilize farmers to participate in the cultivation, commercial cultivation of avocados. And the second question I have for you has to do with disease management. What, from your experience, are the main diseases that affect avocado plants, and what do you do to mitigate that? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chairman. To your first question about people who are setting up pack houses, we have an Italian company that has set up in Kenya, and they have the most modern technology for pack houses. They are representing a company, an Italian company here in Kenya, and yes, I'll give you the references. So, and you actually invited, because what they did is the model. They set up a model pack house, and they already producing, but they've got actually the future of the EU of what requirements it will need. For example, the method that we use for treating avocados, we wax. In Kenya, we wax. That is the technology from Israel. But in the future, there's a way they treat it with they put it in water and treat it. They call it the what? Well, they've got European standards, and that's the future of how pack houses, the requirements of the EU. So it's very important that you go with the requirements of the EU, because a lot of things will change. And a lot of Kenyans now who used technology from Israel are actually having to upgrade. I'll give you the contacts. I'll send you the introduction email also. The second one, pests and diseases. It is something I should have mentioned, which was a criteria of my selection, because people ask me, why avocados? Why avocados? Because avocados, remember, why is it a superfood? Because it does not have sugar. It has healthy fat contents. So that's why it is a superfood. Fruits that have a lot of sugar, like mango, have a lot of issues with insects and diseases. So avocados will not have a lot of diseases. And secondly, they're not very prone to a lot of insects, because they really don't have the sugar to attract the insects to them. The only challenge I can tell you we face for sure is just insects. Insects during the flowering stage, there's an insect that will burrow inside the flower, and normally that makes the flowers abort. So during the pre-flowering, we do a lot of spray for organic fertilizer, insecticide. That is it's called insectobide. It repels the insect. Now, during the fruit, the time that fruit is the pin size and the golf ball time, when the skin of the insect is still very tender, there is the force coddling moth that is burrowing its eggs, makes a hole to put their eggs inside there. So again, there you have to manage a lot of insects until the time it is hardened enough. So what we do at that time, we continue the insecticide and we use products that have zinc, because the zinc hardens and repels the insect. It hardens the coating of the cells of the fruits. So in other than that, diseases, we have not experienced any diseases unless it is a nutritional issue with the avocados. That is why I'd say for me, its cost of production is so low, because it is not prone to the kind of diseases you find with the mangoes and other very sweet fruits. I don't know whether I've answered you adequately.
Yes, you have. And the last question from me is, or comment is, we would like from Zambia to build a bridge between our cooperative and the institutions promoting avocados in Kenya. And my request to you is, would you be able to be the link to help us even come for farm tours so we can learn, because you have vast experience, you lead the pack in Africa, and we would like to learn from you.
Oh, certainly, you're most welcome. I could organize for you from the small scale who are doing very well. Like you see from my video, I tell people, don't focus too much on quantity, look at quality. There's some people who will have even 50 trees, and they're producing even more than someone who's got 300 trees. So we can go into farmers who are doing very small scale and doing very well. We can go to the medium-sized ones, and then the large-size commercial farmers who have got now a lot of experience, like a Kuzi. That is a tour that we can arrange for you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Madam Grace. The chair, I think, just got the question. That was going to be my last question to you, to say, could we send our Zambian delegation? So I'm glad that we are welcome.
Yeah.
So definitely you'll be hearing from us. And I want to just take this time to thank you once again for being very gracious and giving us this time. And I know we went over almost by 30 minutes what we had originally planned, but I think it's been a very good session. I think very beneficial to our members. So thank you very much. And we are cheering on you. You're doing a good job. Please keep going on so we see the higher levels of success.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Grace. Thank you. We look forward to seeing your farm.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Excellent. So with that, I think we've come to the end of today's session. Thanks everyone for joining, and let's continue on this journey to farm Zambia out of poverty. So over to you, Madam Linda.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to highlight a few of the events that will be happening in the following 2 or 3 months. Next week, we've got planting, and then we've got canopy management, and then the nutrient fertilizer one with Madam Olipa. So please do put in your applications early, and the code at the top there should be the code for you to be able to book your reservations. In terms of sharing the membership with others, would appreciate it if you took a picture of this and then forwarded it to your colleagues, or if you have joined us as a participant who has paid and would like to join the cooperative, please see our look at our website, lusakaavocado.com. We are very, very grateful to Madam Grace for a very captive talk for today, and we'll record the talk and we'll be able to share it with those who were not able to join us today. So thank you very much for joining us.
And yeah, and one last one, just before I forget, just a reminder. So let's show Madam Grace our Zambian generosity by donating something to Amicable Homes. So
absolutely,
you can send that through our treasurers, Mrs. Chira and Mr. Piri, and they'll facilitate sending that over to Kenya.
And please put a reference in there to say that it's Kenya. Then we'll know that's earmarked.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll end the stream now. Oh, thank you.
Bye. Everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank